Coming up next on Live and Breaking, preliminary report alleges cracks in the track after freight train carrying diesel and crude oil catches fire in Tamil Nadu's Tiruvallur. Also coming up, hit and run horror rocks Delhi. Drunk driver runs over 6 people, arrested and then let go on bail. More updates coming up on Live and Breaking, and this is exclusive at 7 p.m. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IIHM.
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध। MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
पहाड़ों में एक हाइकिंग शिप भी बन सकती है।
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला।
महाराष्ट्राची माफी मागतो. मी छत्रपती शिवाजी महाराजांची माफी मागतो. महाराजांची माफी मागतो. बाळासाहेबांची माफी मागतो. उद्धव साहेबांची माफी मागतो. राज साहेबांची माफी मागतो. गलती हो गया पुढे तो भाईचा बोला आवाज आवाज
छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल। ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े। क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
A storm is brewing at the heart of American law enforcement. FBI Director Kash Patel is reportedly on the verge of resigning, threatening to walk away from his post if his deputy, Dan Bongino, follows through on his own plans to quit. The reason? A fiery clash with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case, a controversy that's ignited outrage among MAGA supporters and raised questions about transparency in the Trump administration. The Epstein saga has long haunted political and social circles, with its web of allegations involving powerful figures. President Donald Trump, seen here socializing with Epstein in 1992 at Mar-a-Lago.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hi there, welcome to this Sunday edition of This Is Exclusive, in which we are packing a punch. There was a rail accident early in the morning in Tamil Nadu, and it seems, it's emerging rather, that it could be a case of sabotage, with cracks being noticed in the railway tracks just ahead of this spot where the train derailed. It's clearly building up to something, and that's going to be our focus also. With External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar set to visit China this week, I spoke to former Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibal on what to expect in this diplomatic quicksand. All that and more, let's begin with the headlines. Preliminary report alleges cracks in tracks after freight train ferrying diesel and crude oil catches fire in Tamil Nadu's Tiruvallur. Huge controversy erupts over AAIB's preliminary crash report. Pilot Association questions report and leak to Western media. President Draupadi Murmu nominates former Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla, 2611 lawyer Ujjwal Nikam, BJP leader Sadanandan Master, and historian Meenakshi Jain to the Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Modi extends wishes. Hit and run, horror rocks Delhi, drunk driver runs over 5 people, arrested and let go on bail. Major concerns ahead of Bihar Assembly polls. EC sources say names of illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, Myanmar and Nepal in Bihar voter list. All right, welcome back, friends. The Tamil Nadu train fire accident is currently under investigation, with railway officials and police probing into the cause of the incident. A goods train carrying diesel derailed near Tiruvallur railway station, resulting in a massive fire that engulfed 5 wagons. Now a new angle is under lens. Crack was found on the track 100 meters from the accident site, raising suspicions about the cause of the derailment. Railway officials are investigating whether the crack contributed to the accident, and if yes, then is it a case of sabotage? Let's go to Sharda. She's joining us live. These are pictures from earlier, morning pictures on your right of the screen, with the train on fire, the wagons on fire, and to your left, the rescue and relief operations, etc., going on from the site. Sharda joins us live. Sharda, preliminary report suggesting that there was a crack on the track. You would have spoken to some of the officials present there at the site. What's their primary assessment? Could it be a case of sabotage? Are we looking in that direction?
Abhishek, initially in the morning when the fire met, the train met with an accident with the fire after the diesel caught on fire, was because of the friction. Multiple statements came out saying that it was because of the heat and the friction that was caused with the train wheels on the track. Later, it was said that the diesel caught on the fire and that's when the train derailed. However, later after the first set of the fire dozing happened, they were able to go near the tracks where the officials found out there were cracks on the track that the train was traveling in, just 100 meters away from exactly where the fire accident happened. However, out of the 16 wagons, only 4 had caught on fire and the rest were taken away safely. So in that case, now there's a probe being launched by the RPF to make sure whether the crack was caused after the accident happened or was it before, and that's the probe that they have been launched. And then it's stated that after the debris is cleaned up is when they can inquire completely, because the tracks are completely hidden under the the 4 other wagons that was caught on fire and is laying on the track all damaged. So after removal of debris and also making sure that the electric connections and the wires that are replaced there is when the RPF will be able to tell us if the tracks were actually damaged beforehand or was it because of the train after falling on the tracks these cracks come up with.
Right. Sharda, one more question. How busy is this section of the railways where this accident happened? Was some passenger train also likely or expected to come at the same time that this goods train passed by? Are the authorities looking at those aspects about the possibility of a larger plan to cause sabotage, damage, and even loss of life or property?
Abhishek, this was a goods train and luckily no other trains at that time crossed that particular area. The accident exactly happened at 5:20 a.m. is what the locals there were telling us. They also heard the explosion noise and that is when they knew that the fire accident was caused and they immediately ran out of their houses because they live near the tracks. And being 5:20 a.m. there were no passenger trains that crossed that particular area because Tiruvallur and is in between Arakonam and Chennai, which is one of the important stations and is the district right next to the capital city, Chennai. So their movements there from 6 a.m. would be very heavy. However, the EMU trains would be running only from 6 a.m. and luckily nobody was hurt. And following the accident, multiple other express trains and passenger trains were stopped and also derouted. And the Southern Railway said at least 24 hours there had been no other movement in that particular area.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Sharda, with those details. We keep close track of those developments, close track of the crack in the section there where the accident has taken place. Moving on for now to the next one. And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meeting is expected to lay the groundwork for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's anticipated visit to Beijing for the SCO Leaders Summit in the month of August. The visit will also help set the tone for India-China relations and regional diplomacy. Jaishankar's trip is seen as a litmus test for how far the two nations have progressed in rebuilding trust since the October 2024 decision to disengage at the last two remaining friction points along the line of actual control. The major question is, what should New Delhi focus on and what should be the expectations from the SCO summit? I spoke to former Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibbal. Joining us, Mr. Kanwal Sibbal, former Foreign Secretary of India. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And first visit of External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, as it happens after Galwan, after Operation Sindoor, after our Vice Chief of Army said that we had one front but two nations fighting, obviously, that the second nation was China. And yes, again, first visit after the 90th birthday of Dalai Lama, where there was some heated arguments on which side India strongly stands or should stand. So what do you expect from External Affairs Minister's visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit meeting?
Well, if it was a purely bilateral visit, then many of the things that you have pointed out would have been very relevant. But this is not a bilateral visit. It's an SCO foreign minister's visit. It's a multilateral visit. And we know that when the defense ministers of the SCO met, they were not able to issue a joint communique because we objected to the elimination of any reference to terrorism in the document that was circulated, although Balochistan was mentioned, which means that Pakistani concerns and Chinese concerns about what they perceive as terrorism from the Baloch liberation fighters had relevance. But what happened in Pahalgam and Pakistan's long-standing use of terrorism against that did not have relevance. Now, this issue is going to come up again.
Yeah.
And our foreign minister will have to face this squarely. Now, it will be interesting to see who gives in, whether the Chinese and the Pakistanis insist on maintaining the previous position, which means that India will not be able to then be part of the joint communique. If they back off, then it will be seen as if India's hard diplomatic tactics have worked.
Yeah.
And this would actually be some sort of a diplomatic setback to the Chinese and the Pakistanis. So it's going to be a tussle of wills. But we have made our position very clear. And the discussions will be based on the assumption that if India does not get satisfaction on mentioning of terrorism, now, we are not going to, in the SCO, say that Pakistan should be named.
Yeah.
Because if you like, the conditions for India and Pakistan jointly to enter the SCO was that their bilateral issues will not figure in SCO discussions. So if we were to insist on naming Pakistan, then it becomes a bilateral issue. But if we rightly say that all countries are committed to fighting terrorism, there's so many UN documents on this, so many bilateral joint statements on this issue, and China itself condemned Pahalgam as a terrorist act. So why should there be any difficulty in mentioning terrorism in the joint communique and the responsibility of all countries to fight terrorism and have zero tolerance for terrorism? This will be our bottom line position. Now let's see what happens.
Right. And any possibility, sir, of the External Affairs Minister bumping into the Pakistani counterpart, or the Pakistani counterpart actually trying to do that?
Well, I don't think any purpose would be served, because these encounters, if they take place, have to be properly prepared. Otherwise, it can be misread, and a lot of stories can be built around it without foundation, saying that there is a thaw in the relationship. You know, there are a lot of people in India who would like to play this up and confuse matters. And the Pakistanis would play this up at their end, because if you've seen that statements from their side, from Bilawal Bhutto and all, they are as if, you know, they have been committed to peace for the last 70 years.
Yeah. They've been itching to have a dialogue.
So therefore, I don't think, yes, some civilities will be observed. They may talk to each other, shake hands and say hello, that kind of thing, but there can't be any discussion per se.
Right. So by all yardsticks, you would agree, sir, that this is going to be a quicksand of diplomacy that S. Jaishankar would need to negotiate?
You see, keep in mind that last year at the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting, Jaishankar went to Beijing. Went to Beijing. Because at the summit, it was not the SCO Foreign Ministers, the SCO summit. And he had gone. Then he met Wang Yi at the sidelines of the Johannesburg G20 meeting in February 25.
Right.
Then in July 25, we met him on the sidelines of the ASEAN meeting.
And BRICS also, they have met.
And then BRICS also, they have had a lot of meetings. So it's not as if it's anything new. So he will meet him. And I suppose the usual things will be said about maintaining peace and tranquility and resolving outstanding issues, and then proceeding towards some normalization. Last time it was that the Yatra, Mansarovar Yatra would be revived, and there was some talk about exchange of civilian flights. So these are the things that are on the anvil. On the other hand, we've seen that China has toughened its position on technology issues, on supply of certain foreign-made equipment. Let's say German-made equipment, the tunneling equipment, which they are withholding. And there is some kind of a use of sanctions, without calling them as such, in order to retard the process of supply chains moving away from China to India. And then, as the Vice Chief of Army Staff, and you mentioned, the Chief of Army mentioned that actually China was very much present in this conflict in terms of giving them real-time information on our assets. So there have been a lot of negative signals from China. So it's going to be a long haul with this country.
Long haul for External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar as he travels to Beijing for participation in SCO Summit. Thank you so much, Mr. Sibal, with your those deep insights into the possibilities moving on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Right. Soon after the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau of India came out with its 15-page report on the AI-171 crash that was yesterday, reactions started pouring in, despite Minister of State for Civil Aviation warning that this was just a preliminary report and people should not jump to conclusions. The Indian Commercial Pilots Association has raised its concerns regarding the accusations or insinuation against the pilots of Flight AI 171. ICPA called the accusation or allegations against the pilots and flight crew a gross violation and disservice to the profession. Same as happened in 2019, or had happened in 2019, when following the Ethiopian Airlines crash, the initial report suggested pilot error that might have played a significant role, but later investigations revealed serious flaws in the MCAS system. We tried speaking to the Minister of Civil Aviation, Ram Mohan Naidu. Let's see if he responded.
Preliminary.
No, I'm not talking.
Sir, please. Sir, your thoughts.
I've already given.
Sir, please, one word on the.
I've already given. Thank you.
Sir, one word. There's a lot of contradiction in the report, sir. Sir, just one word. Preliminary.
No, I'm not talking.
Sir, please. Sir, your thoughts.
I've already given.
Sir, please, one word on the.
I've already given. Thank you.
Sir, one word. There's a lot of contradiction in the report, sir. Sir, just one word.
All right, amidst these mounting contradictions and insinuations, joining me in the studios, Captain Ehsan Khalid. He's a former IF pilot and officer and, of course, a former commander of Boeing 737 NG fleet. Very good evening and welcome, Mr. Khalid.
Hi,
thanks for joining us in the studios. And my question to you, this thing that began with those two lines in the 15-page report, Pilot A asked Pilot B, did you switch off the fuel switch? And he says, no, I did not. And then it has built into this clear insinuation that maybe there was something wrong, maybe one of the pilots did it. As a pilot, do you see that that's even a distinct possibility?
Okay, Abhishek, there is lot that has been said and there is lot that hasn't been said. And therefore, when we discuss, it would be trying to decipher what has not been said, because what is said is already known.
Right.
So what was said on the channel by the Honorable Minister is that we should not come to any kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
It's a preliminary report.
Yeah.
I wish and I hope that DGCA and our AIB would go to FAA and tell them that on 11th of July, you gave a clean chit to Boeing 787 as having no problem technically. Okay, so are we going to go to Boeing and FAA and tell them that we have not given you a clean chit? It was on 11th of July.
Right.
Okay. In that same letter...
You are alluding to the reports that emerge in the Western media, the Wall Street Journal.
No. I am referring to what is called advisory from FAA dated 11th July to all the 24 or 36 airlines, 171 aircraft being operated within USA. And about 1,100 outside to various parts of the world. That particular continued service advisory, it's CANPA kind of a word. Okay, but it is an advisory from FAA to all the operators that based upon the preliminary report, it is now clear that there is no technical problem with Boeing 787.
Right.
Okay, so it has the conclusion has already been arrived.
Right.
Which affects the operation.
And then this insinuation that the pilots might have done something.
Okay. So we come to, that is one part. So we have to come to conclusion because it is conclusion and next report maybe after 1 year.
Yeah.
Who would be interested in it?
Yeah.
You would probably cover it for 5 minutes, but will all channels cover it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we come to the whole thing as to what does the AIB report say? So before AIB report, a lot of media, a lot of people, I started talking maybe on the 12th or 13th of June itself that there is something called TCMA.
Right.
That can shut both the engines down simultaneously as it did in Osaka in 2019.
And that's without any manual intervention.
That is correct.
Okay.
And it has been accepted in a service bulletin by Boeing itself.
Right.
Okay. So TCMA would be able to shut it down if it gets wrong signal.
Yeah.
There was a rider that it has to be on, it does only on ground.
Okay.
Okay. So the AIB report very conclusively comes out with a statement that at timestamp of 0839, all the sensors transitioned from ground mode to air mode.
Yeah.
So what is the outcome of this sentence?
That's when the aircraft was already airborne.
Yeah. So 3 seconds after getting airborne, they all transitioned to air mode.
Right.
Therefore, all the allegations on TCMA switching the engine off is now like not relevant.
Not possible. Yeah, not relevant.
Not relevant.
Yeah, not relevant.
So that sentence wasn't required to be there. Okay. Why? Because if the switches really transition to the air, why the landing gear wasn't selected up? Because if it continues to be in ground, the landing gear will be down, even if the pilot wants to take it up. Okay. So landing gear did not go up. That means why? We don't know. Do you know what was the engine power that was being produced before the aircraft lifted off? We don't know. What we know is that fuel switches transitioned from run to cutoff at time stamp 42.
Yeah.
Right?
But by that time, the aircraft already had 180 knots.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just about, say, 3 seconds after getting airborne.
Yeah.
It transitioned. It conveys me nothing. Because when you say transition, there is no mover. When you say moved, that means somebody moved. So AIB report, and rightly so, because AIB report is only seeing the electrical position recording. Either it is 0 or it is 1.
Right.
So it was 1 when it was on. When it went off, it became 0. So there was an electrical signal that went on to turn the fuel supply off. Okay. They never say that the fuel switches were moved up and down. No, nowhere have they said.
Except for that pilot conversation. And that's why this insinuation that the pilots might have done it.
Let's look at it. I will come to it. Even if I miss it, please tell me, because I haven't slept the whole night as to why would somebody do that. I know exactly well. Okay. So the AIB report never says that the switch was moved. They only say that it transitioned from one state to another.
Yeah.
Okay. That can happen electrically. That can happen probably from TCMA. It can happen from FedEx. It can happen from EEC.
Can it happen in flight?
Why not? If there is an electrical malfunction, Boeing never said that it can malfunction on ground.
Right.
Before 2019, that action.
Yeah.
So if we really investigate, they'll say, okay, it can malfunction and we'll correct it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we come back to the question of pilot talking. Did you put off? Or he says, I didn't do so. So the whole AIB report, if you read, first is that electric fuel switch SAIB, the report.
Yeah.
That says that, Boeing 737 in 2018 had a problem that the latching mechanism can go wrong.
Yeah.
It has got no relevance to 787.
Okay.
Okay. But be it as it is, if it fails, that means a mechanical failure.
Yeah.
There are two different switches with two different springs.
Yeah.
Will they fail exactly in that same second?
That's why this insinuation of a manual intervention.
No. I will come back again. This switch was found in the run position after the crash.
Right.
The crash means it has gone through so much of bashing.
But that's been explained that the other pilot tried to rev up the engines again.
What I'm saying is that switch wasn't faulty. That SAIB report that is in the...
Oh, you mean to say, had it shut down, it wouldn't have easily come up again?
Right. No, if it was put. So let's say that the switch was faulty. Both the switches became faulty at the same time, same second, assume. Right? Then they put it up. In the crash, things would have moved. This would have moved back? No, it hasn't moved. It is firmly, it is in their report, in their image, that it is in the run position.
So when can we expect? So when can we expect this insinuation to really go now? Like how long we have to wait?
Okay, so I will tell you that those two sentences of the CVR recording. We did not have any CVR recording or transcript.
Right.
It is an interpretation of CVR that we have. Now I'll tell you the whole sequence and I'll speak the same sentence. Okay. I rotate the aircraft. The engines are going up and down. The power is varying. Okay. I get airborne. And thereafter, at 39, my engines start to wind down. I get both engine failure. I said, okay, memory items, engine failure. And thereafter, I'm controlling the aircraft. And the engine doesn't. So I said, did you turn the fuel switch off?
Yeah.
He says, no, I didn't do so. Then I would say, do it.
Yeah.
Now do it again. Put it to run. So the pilot...
That communication has to be there. Those exact words have to be there.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying, these two sentences will be part of the checklist, what Boeing has mandated to do.
And is there a camera possibility also?
No, there is no camera here.
Oh, there is no camera.
Okay, so the
cockpit does not have a camera.
No, the cockpit does not have a camera. So I'm saying that, when you have a checklist being executed, which is dual engine failure checklist, and you tell the pilot that, okay, dual engine failure, both the switches off and both the switches to run. And engine hasn't picked up because I am flying, I am not looking inside.
Yeah.
Okay. It has not picked up. So I asked, did you do it? He said, no, I didn't do it. Why? Because he was frozen.
Yeah.
Right? So he says, okay, do it. Then he does it. Okay. Now it looks very nice.
So you mean to say this insinuation can go only when the final conversation, exact conversation of the CVR comes, through the CVR comes out?
Yeah. So the biggest question that has been opened here is that, was the fuel switch moved? If it was moved, it doesn't say it was moved. If it was moved, was it in the attempt to restart the engine, or was it the attempt of killing the engine? Now I will come back to this question of killing the engine. Okay, which is an insinuation. It is an impossibility. Let us assume that Kundar was flying and Sabharwal was pilot monitoring with 15,000 hours of experience versus 3,000 hours. He is flying like this, and let us assume that Sabharwal tried to kill himself.
Right.
Okay. He put the switches off, and this guy rotates and engine dies. There would be 50 lights, 50 messages. Kundar will not realize what has happened, not in 5 seconds, not in 10 seconds, not in half an hour, because his workload has increased like no other pilot has ever had. He is flying a glider suddenly. He will be just doing it. We are not trained to do the checklist with the pilot not being trusted. Okay, so the checklist is being, he is flying, he can't ask me, did you do this, did you do that? No, that won't happen. Okay, and the second thing is, the conversation that will happen on the CAS messages, warning messages. Yeah. It will say dual engine failed, single engine failed, this, there would be 50 lights on.
Right.
Okay, so this won't be a talk like it is presented. But when you see the flow of the talk in AIB, it leads to a direction.
Yeah.
Okay, which is harsh on pilots.
Yeah.
And when you look at it like this, it looks perfectly
so
fine.
I think, I fully understood what you're saying, sir. Essentially, what we have understood, Captain Khalid, from your conversation is that the insinuation is bad, and it can be lifted only after we get the exact conversation that happened between the pilots, for which I think we will have to wait, and hopefully the AAIB and more than the AAIB, in fact, the government should intervene, because this seems like a case of a big corporate war also. Remember, let's not forget that just hours before the AAIB report became public, there were reports already in Western media platforms like the Wall Street Journal giving a certain spin to the accident. We are not going to let go of this story anytime soon. Thanks, friends, joining us this Sunday. This is exclusive. I run out of time. Short break. Get Me Right is back on the other side.
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho Befikar.
13,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध। MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
महाराष्ट्राची माफी मागतो. मी छत्रपती शिवाजी महाराजांची माफी मागतो. महाराजांची माफी मागतो. बाळासाहेबांची माफी मागतो. उद्धव साहेबांची माफी मागतो. राज साहेबांची माफी मागतो. उफाळले
Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week I bring three, one from domestic politics and two from foreign affairs, but with tremendous impact on home policies. First up, we take a look at the political churn in Bihar with the Election Commission's drive for a deep cleanup of the electoral roll in the state. Ahead of elections, it has raised a few hackles and some questions about the very basis of our democracy. Then I take you to an interesting geopolitical development in our neighborhood. Russia has become the first country in the world to recognize the Taliban government in Kabul. Did you miss the irony there? Russian tanks had rolled in the 1970s to throw out the Mujahideen, Taliban's precursor. The military intervention happened at a considerable cost. Russia lost 15,000 men by the time it called it quits in 1989. In a double irony, this happened in the same week as the United States de-recognized Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, as a terror organization in Syria. We will understand, connect the dots. And last, what's with Donald Trump's infatuation with tariffs? There's a history and a template which the American president seems to be subconsciously following. We'll give you a deep dive. Let's get going. It was a week of geopolitical ironies in the world of diplomacy. Russia became the first country in the world to recognize the Taliban government in Afghanistan. Parallelly, the United States re-recognized Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Syrian rebel group that overthrew the Assad regime and is now in power. Its chief, Ahmad al-Shara, was a designated terrorist with a bounty of $10 million on his head by the CIA. He now gets photo ops with the American president. Last year, Shara led a coup against the House of Assads in Syria, ending their 54-year-long run at the helm. This also ended a Shia regime that was aligned with Iran, and hence seen as a pariah state by the mostly Sunni neighborhood. And of course, by Israel. No wonder America blinked or looked the other way when Shara's forces laid siege of Damascus and ultimately overthrew Bashar al-Assad, who now cools his heels in a suburb of Moscow. Meanwhile, Shara has completely realigned himself with the West, courtesy some push from the Saudis, of course. Look at the trajectory. Before picking up the cudgels on behalf of Al-Qaeda-affiliated Jabhat-ul-Nusra against the Shia Assad regime, Shara had cut his teeth into armed terrorism with anti-American terror activities in Iraq in the early 2000s. He became a protege of Al-Qaeda chief al-Baghdadi and earned the notoriety with the alias or nom de guerre of Abu Muhammad al-Jolani. During the second Obama administration, as the Americans decided to go after Baghdadi, a nimble-footed Shara completely distanced himself from his mentor, jettisoned the al-Nusra front, and morphed into a fighter against the Islamic State under the HTS. By 2016, Shara had cut his ties with Baghdadi and his entire network, and it was time to evolve further. For him, Syria had to be liberated from un-Islamic rule of a Shia-led Alawite Druze Christian hodgepodge to turn it into a true Islamic government. It is likely that by this time, of all the militias active in the Syrian theater, the Israelis and the Americans found him to be the most capable of taking on the Assad regime. That's when the transformation from a designated terrorist, al-Jolani, in fatigues to clean-shaven al-Shara in dark suits was perhaps put in motion. In his first outreach that he made to the Americans through an interview with the PBS in 2021, he made it clear that his fight was against Assad and his Russian backers, and not the West. He even slipped in that he used suicide bombers only against Russian-backed militias, never against any American or European targets. One should not miss the choice of the platform. PBS is American public broadcaster, and it gave him a good 60 minutes of interview to build his narrative. He used the same interview to morph into an Arab nationalist, partly influenced by the socialist Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. Par for the course as we are discussing geopolitical ironies here. The statement by Marco Rubio removing the terror designation of Shara this week said that he has disbanded the HTS and that he has promised to fight against terror in all its forms. Read Iran.
And as you may know, today President Trump will issue a new executive order lifting U.S. sanctions on Syria, reaffirming his belief that the Syrian people deserve a future of safety and prosperity. This policy reflects the president's conviction that American leadership can unlock new paths to regional stability.
Trump has already met and obliged a suited, booted Shara with a picture during his Middle East visit in the month of May, and announced lifting of all sanctions on Syria with the changed circumstances. As that Bob Dylan number goes, for the times they are a-changing.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass. Very strong pass fighter.
Keeping up with the changing times, let's look at the other irony, perhaps juicier one. Imagine circa 1979. Russian tanks rolled into Afghanistan, marking a tectonic shift in the politics of Central Asia. The great game had turned a leaf and the theater was hot again. That was still the peak of Cold War, and the Soviets would not have realized they were heading into a war that would shake the very foundations of the USSR. By the time the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan wound up, they had lost 15,000 men and billions of dollars in national wealth, plus the wounds to lick, having been defeated by a ragtag militia of Mujahideen, though of course trained by the ISI and funded by the CIA. The Taliban evolved out of that period, most of its fighters having fought the communist jihad as a creed. The godless Russians were the sole enemy in their world. USSR stopped existing a couple of years later. One would have thought the wounds would be deep. The Taliban regime in Kabul was a scar, a daily reminder of why the USSR became Russia, among many other factors. So when 9/11 happened, the Russians turned around, came out in full support of the Americans, and provided their airspace for American and NATO flights to go into Afghanistan. In the backdrop of the Ukraine war and the battle lines between Europe and Russia, it is hard to imagine that just 25 years ago, the Russians were providing full logistical and ground support to NATO forces in their war against the Osama bin Laden and the Taliban. That was the time when Putin even floated the idea of Russia joining NATO. Another irony. But then let's pull back. In 2021, the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan as the Taliban rolled into Kabul, displacing the West-backed, democratically elected government. The ensuing chaos and the pictures from Kabul became a testament of an empire in retreat. Like the Soviets then, America had wounds to lick. Surprisingly, Russia was one of the very few countries that did not close down their embassy. They followed it up with an economic deal with the Taliban in 2022, agreeing to supply oil, gas, and wheat to Afghanistan. This paid dividends. In July last year, for example, the Islamic State in Khorasan province, or ISKP, killed 130 people at a concert hall on the outskirts of Moscow in Russia's deadliest terror attack in recent memory. The ISKP operates out of Afghan soil. Having an ambassador in Kabul helped. Putin rang up the Taliban and called them his allies. In April this year, in fact, Russia moved Taliban out of its terror list. Now connect the dots. Russia is struggling with the Ukraine war, Russia facing sanctions, America muscling its way into Syria via Ahmad al-Shara, the Russians responding with firming up the Taliban connect. On their mind would also be an alternative access to the Indian Ocean via the North-South Transport Corridor and the Chabahar and Bandar Abbas ports in Iran via Afghanistan. Russians would also be mindful of the fact that Trump is trying hard to reclaim the Bagram air base on the outskirts of Kabul, which means Americans could be back in Afghanistan. Another irony, China is not recognizing Afghanistan despite having their ambassador there. You know why? Because it might annoy Pakistan. And Pakistan is also not recognizing Taliban because Taliban does not recognize the Durand Line. Let's close this segment on geopolitical ironies with the best one. Also this week, Israel found itself in the company of Pakistan, with Benjamin Netanyahu formally recommending Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Allah and Moses do come together. For times they are changing. Moving on.
If you go back and look at some of the good presidents, our country was the wealthiest, proportionately the wealthiest. From 1870 to 1913, it was an all-tariff country. We didn't have income tax. That came in in 1913. We had tariffs. And we had so much money we didn't know what to do with it. We had, we had a couple of presidents that were very, very strong. McKinley, I guess more than anybody, but he was the tariff king, but he was very, very strong. It's sort of sad. He made a fortune for this country, became very rich, and then Teddy Roosevelt went out and vice president, and he spent the money. And they said Roosevelt was a great president. And let's say he was a great president, but the money was paid by McKinley with tariffs. Tariffs are charged by other countries at levels that are ridiculous. And I call those other countries, and every one of them is willing to give us everything now, by the way, just so you know. Sir, we'll charge you no tariffs, nothing. We'll give you everything. We'll give you access to our markets. We'll give you everything. Is that a correct statement, Scott?
This was Donald Trump talking high about the 25th American president, William McKinley, who was in office 1897 to 1901. Did you hear how Trump describes him as a tariff king? The same phrase he reserves for India these days. McKinley represented an era in American economic history when tariffs were a widely used tool or weapon for both protecting nascent American industry and promoting domestic manufacturing. This era lasted for about 70 years, from the end of the Civil War in 1860 to the Great Depression in 1930. This was a period when they were the chief source of, or tariffs were the chief source of revenue for the federal government. Again, something which makes Trump nostalgic. The tariff walls ring-fenced American economy against the mighty manufacturing muscle, not of China, but of the United Kingdom and other industrialized European parts at that time. The first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton, was as vocal as Trump these days about tariffs as a tool and a hawk on discouraging imports from the United Kingdom. The post-Civil War surge in industrial growth of America had much to do with tariffs providing guardrails to American steel industry, for example, against cheaper European steel. The steel industry fed into the railroad expansion, again heavily supported by tariffs. The two, steel and railroads, formed the foundation of the first wave of American industrialization that changed both the physical and economic geography of the United States. McKinley, even before he became president, brought what is called the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890, raising tariffs to the highest levels in American history at that time, levels which are being talked about by Trump now. Like the average tariff on imports reached a peak of 50%. Just for perspective, before Trump arrived on the scene in his first term, average American tariff was 3%. There was a window in the McKinley Act to negotiate reciprocal tariffs with trading partners, but only if there was a hard bargain. So what seems like novel in the manner of Trump is a copybook McKinley from the 1890 Act. Also, through much of this period of 70 years, the US Congress was in control of the Republicans, and tariffs were a central feature of their economic policy. That DNA has continued with some atavism and is reflecting in Trump rather strongly. The tariffs kept increasing post the First World War as the US calibrated its production and supplies in response to recovery of the European nations. Then came the 1930 Tariff Act, also called Smoot-Hawley Act, by which the Hoover administration jacked up the rates even further, making the tax more broad-based. Trade partners of the United States, Canada, France, UK, and others retaliated, bringing down overall global trade volume. For example, the US imports from Europe declined from US $1.3 billion in 1929 to just $390 million in 1932, while US exports to Europe fell from US $2.3 billion to $784 million in the same period. Overall, world trade declined by some 66%. Coming as it did at the cusp of the Great Depression, the tariff war added to the economic woes and fueled the depression even deeper. The 1930 Act was aimed at specifically protecting American agriculture in crisis, but the remedy proved worse than the disease. With corporations passing off the tariff burden to consumers, higher prices of food, clothing, and household items strained budgets of already struggling American middle-class families. It was an era of tumult. War clouds were gathering. Economic uncertainty was peaking. Tariffs were not helping. And then the World War II happened. As America came out victor and hence more confident on the other side of the war, with its allies, it set out to refashion world economy. Lessons from the 1930 Act and the Depression shifted accent on increased trade through tariff reductions. The loss of revenue on account of lower rates was more than compensated by increasing global trade volumes. Free trade agreements became the norm, with America shepherding the setting up of institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, and of course, subsequently the World Trade Organization. It was transatlantic consensus at work, with Anglo-Saxon, Euro-American chemistry deciding what the rest of the world would do. This had much to do with American swagger as the new empire post-World War II. A post-war surplus economy made America carry allies from Japan to Germany, from Korea to Canada on its shoulders. And then, among the rising tide, raising all boats, rose one ship, China. A still confident Washington handheld Beijing through the 1970s and 1980s, facilitating its entry into the World Trade Organization, even as it transferred much of its own manufacturing base to Chinese cities, making China the shop floor of the world. The dragon bid its time, thieving on intellectual property, rummaging through global supply chains, strengthening its grip over end-to-end production cycle, and bared the fangs only recently. The gloves are off. The dragon is breathing fire down the American neck. The Second Empire has come undone.
While the United States and many other nations play by the rules, these countries use government-run industrial planning and state-owned enterprises to rig the system in their favor. They engage in relentless product dumping, forced technology transfer, and the theft of intellectual property. The United States lost over 3 million manufacturing jobs, nearly a quarter of all steel jobs, and 60,000 factories after China joined the WTO. And we have racked up $13 trillion in trade deficits over the last 2 decades. But those days are over.
This was Trump, all fire and brimstone, launching a fusillade against the Chinese at the 2018 UNGA in his first term. If you look at the timings of Trump's tariff war, you realize the psychology behind the moves. Like in the 18th century, so now, it's a less confident America creating moats as it negotiates its place with the rest of the world. In a Thucydides trap with China, it is American angst playing out. The United States government has gained with its coffers richer by $100 billion since January. The annual tariff haul could land at around $300 billion. But this is the money American companies and importers are paying to the government. How long before they recover this cost from the end consumer? That's when the pinch would begin. As per a study done at Yale, Trump's tariff tantrums could cost American families around $2,300 this year. The study goes on to paint a depressing picture for the American economy. that might shrink by as much as $110 billion per annum going forward, with reduction in employment and increase in inflation. The American national television has been debating for some time now how expensive their shoes and t-shirts imported from Vietnam and Bangladesh are going to get with the tariffs imposed. It will not be over till it's over. It will run its full cycle. Just in case you thought it's about Trump, no, it's about America. All the tariffs imposed during Trump's first term were retained by the Biden administration. Tariffs have morphed back to being a strategic instrument for achieving economic and political ends. Trade liberalization is history. It is back to reciprocal trade agreements instead of a global commons approach. Each nation has to guard its core interests. In the case of India, there is tremendous pressure to concede on GM crops. Because if you look at it, having outsourced most of its goods economy to China, there's very little America can offer India. It comes down to two sectors, defense and agriculture. Both, by their very nature, directly affect national security and sovereignty. The United States is itself struggling with the side effects of GM crops on the health of its citizenry, from mass obesity to increasing rates of cancer. Many new age ailments could be connected with the biotechnological tinkering with crops. But since America has nothing else to give, it would want to force those onto its allies like India. The Modi government has held on to its own till now, and hopefully would continue to do so till the Trump's tariff tantrums settle. There's no short-term solution to this crisis. Moving to the final segment. The issue of substantive revision of electoral rolls in Bihar is sub judice. The Supreme Court, hearing a clutch of petitions, all of them from the opposition parties, has upheld the Election Commission's remit of holding the special intensive revision in Bihar, thus throwing out of the window primary argument of the opposition that it should not be carried out in the first place. There have been some valid grounds which the EC should have thought through before launching the deep cleansing of electoral rolls in Bihar, last done in 2003, and the Supreme Court might crease out those drawbacks in its next hearing. But the politicking by the opposition bloc has veered towards the irresponsible as usual. Look at this post by Asaduddin Owaisi of the AIMIM. He's calling the authentication drive by the EC a backdoor entry of the NRC, the National Registry of Citizens, a bugbear created for the minorities, specifically the Muslims post the CAA NRC protests of 2020. M.A. Baby, the chief of the Communist Party of India Marxist, wrote an op-ed in which he termed the roll revision a continuation of CAA NRC debate and called the trio of CAA NRC SIR an antiquated 20th century idea which defined citizenship as an exclusionary concept. As an NRC hawk who believes India is making a big mistake by not rolling out a national register of citizens that has been mandated by the Supreme Court itself, this raising of NRC bogey by the opposition is opportune time for me to reflect on the issue briefly. First up, here's a list of some countries that mandate a national registry of citizens based on which they issue national ID cards, which the citizens, of course, need to acquire and keep as proof of their citizenship. Germany, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, all in the Western Europe. Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia to our east, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria in Africa, UAE, Israel, Covert in West Asia. Over 100 countries, in fact, maintain a mandatory national registry of its citizens around the world, rich or poor, developed or developing alike. And unlike what M.A. Baby wants us to believe, most of the nations have evolved their idea of citizenship in the last 50 years, responding to the complexities of globalization. Now let's come to our neighborhood. Pakistan maintains a mandatory registry with compulsory registration by its citizens Similarly do Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and of course China. Just leaves us in India and possibly Afghanistan. Imagine the illegal Bangladeshi infiltrators who are taking advantage of India's porous border and even more porous systems have to mandatorily be a part of the NRC in their home country. But there are some here in India who make their stay or the stay of these illegals a touchstone of India's liberalism, secularism, wokeism and whateverism. Staking national security concerns. Since this episode has been about ironies, I shall close with one. The opposition argument in the Supreme Court hinged on citizenship count being the sole preserve of the Home Ministry and not that of the Election Commission. Then is it a natural corollary that they would allow the NRC if the Home Ministry picks up the tab? Again, they have argued that the Aadhaar card should be allowed to claim presence on the electoral rolls. The same opposition resisted tooth and nail the idea mooted by the Modi government in 2021 that the Aadhaar card be linked with the voter ID cards. As they would say, irony died an electoral death. Thanks for watching.
Co-powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho Befikar.
13,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
महाराष्ट्राची माफी मागतो। मी छत्रपती शिवाजी महाराजांची माफी मागतो। महाराजांची माफी मागतो। बाळासाहेबांची माफी मागतो। उद्धव साहेबांची माफी मागतो। राज साहेबांची माफी मागतो।
आवाज आवाज
Bharat 1 Minute brought to you by Canara Bank. Together we can.
Delhi PWD Minister Parvesh Verma visits Palla to review the ongoing monsoon preparedness measures and inspection of the Yamuna River. He says that a meeting was held on the measures being taken to deal with the floods and that samples of Yamuna water were taken from Haryana, also saying that he reviewed the work and is satisfied with the pace of work. On the inclusion of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's 12th fourth in UNESCO's World Heritage List, Union Minister Piyush Goyal expressed that this is a matter of great pride for all of us. He says that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj worked to bring peace to the country, fought for India's unity and integrity, promoted development and respect for every individual. And a bus carrying pilgrims returning from Amarnath Yatra met with an accident in Jammu and Kashmir's Kulgam. Injured have been admitted to the hospital. One of the injured individuals said that he came from Mandsaur of MP for the Yatra and he found the arrangements, however, to be good.
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho Befikar.
13,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
MDH की देगी मिर्च,
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
पहाड़ों में एक हाइकिंग स्टिक भी बन सकती है।
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
A storm is brewing at the heart of American law enforcement. FBI Director Cash
Rengeteg munka, rengeteg tudomány, rengeteg ötlet, rengeteg kitartás történt annak érdekében, hogy ezt a programot sikerre vigyük. Én nagyon remélem, hogy annyira büszkék vagytok rám és a programra, mint amennyire én büszke voltam a kutatóinkra az elmúlt 3 hétben. Magyarország az elmúlt hetekben visszakerült
Shubhanshu Shukla, viewers. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla there in the middle, you can see the pilot of Axiom 4 is all set to right now address. He's going to speak out, and once he's speaking, we will put out that audio. This is ahead of Axiom 4 mission's departure, viewers, from the International Space Station. And remember, NASA is going to also provide live coverage of the departure, scheduled for tomorrow around 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Monday. And this is first on Republic TV, by the way, viewers. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, the first Indian to visit the International Space Station and pilot for the mission, is part of this 4-member crew. He, along with his crew members and those on the ISI, as you see, he's there going to address, he's going to speak out live in just a few moments from now. So the crew includes veteran NASA astronaut Commander Peggy Whitson and ESA project astronaut Slavoj Uznaski and Wisniewski of Poland, Hungarian also, and astronaut Tibor Kapu. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, of course, is the pilot, and he will be addressing. This is the farewell address of the Axiom 4 mission. And as per the release by NASA, viewers, it will
I can speak as long now. So it has been an incredible journey. I did not imagine all this when I started on Falcon 9 on 25th. And I think it has been made amazing or incredible because of the people who are involved. The team that is standing behind me, you guys have made it really special for us being here on the station. And it was an incredible joy to be here and working alongside with a bunch of professionals like you. Over the past 2.5 weeks or so, we have done a lot of science on the station. We have done outreach activities and also looked back at the earth. Whatever time we found, we were always looking out the window. And it almost seems magical to me. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank my country and all their citizens for supporting this mission and me with all their hearts. And I would like to thank ISRO for making this happen, all the colleagues at ISRO who have worked tirelessly in developing all the protocols, the science and the outreach activities, the researchers back in India, the students who developed the outreach items that I carried. I would also like to thank NASA and its international partners, Axiom Space, SpaceX, for ensuring that we were trained adequately well and providing all the support round the clock, and all the people who were sitting on ground supporting this mission, making it extremely successful. I would agree with what TB said, that these missions have much far-reaching implications beyond science, and that is what I believe that this mission would also do in all of our respective countries as well. Going back from here, I carry with me a lot of memories and the learnings out of this mission that I would try and spread back. But the one thing that really sticks to me is what humanity is capable of when all of us come together from different parts of the world and work for a common goal or a common objective. It is truly incredible. So thank you everyone, and it has been an incredible mission for me. And अब कुछ शब्द मेरे देशवासियों के लिए हिंदी में. कमाल की यात्रा रही है ये मेरी, लेकिन अब जैसे मेरी ये यात्रा ख़त्म होने वाली है, आपकी और मेरी यात्रा अभी बहुत लंबी है. हमारी ह्यूमन स्पेस मिशन की जो यात्रा है वो बहुत लंबी है और बहुत कठिन भी है. लेकिन मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूँ कि अगर हम निश्चय कर लें तो तारा अभी प्राप्यन्ते, इवन स्टार्स आर अटेनेबल. 41 साल पहले कोई भारतीय अंतरिक्ष में गए थे और उन्होंने हमें बताया था कि ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है. और कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि हम सब ये जानना चाहते हैं कि आज भारत कैसा दिखता है. मैं आपको बताता हूँ. आज का भारत स्पेस से महत्वाकांक्षी दिखता है। आज का भारत निडर दिखता है। आज का भारत कॉन्फिडेंट दिखता है। आज का भारत गर्व से पूर्ण दिखता है। और इन्हीं सब कारणों की वजह से मैं एक बार फिर से कह सकता हूँ कि आज का भारत अभी भी सारे जहाँ से अच्छा दिखता है। जल्दी धरती पर मुलाकात करते हैं। धन्यवाद। आई विल नाउ हैंड ओवर द माइक टू माई कलीग स्वाव।
Thank you, Shooks. Thank you all for such beautiful words, and thank you to all the people here during this 11 astronauts, cosmonauts who gathered together on the International Space Station and helped us to execute this mission. We are four, but to be honest, your work we couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without, as well, many people on the ground. So these are hundreds of people working back in Poland, in our countries, at the European Space Agency, at NASA, at Axiom Space, who make this mission happen. So I want to thank you all. Thank you for such a beautiful, for hosting us on the ISS. For me, that was one memory I will always have in my head, is our first day when we crossed that hatch and we floated through the station, and for the first time we were guided by you to Cupola to look back on Earth. That was one of the most magical moments of my life. I think the International Space Station is a beautiful international collaboration, and these places, such laboratories, are really important to be preserved. And look where we can go when we work together, we collaborate on common platform, common science, then sky is no longer the limit. We can explore space, we can explore science, we can explore technology and build new solutions for the future. I think this really speaks to me very deeply to be able to collaborate and attain these results. Let me maybe switch to Polish. Drogie Polki, drodzy Polacy, dziękuję Wam po pierwsze za zaufanie i za to, że mogłem Was tutaj reprezentować na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej podczas pierwszej polskiej misji na ISS. Dziękuję za to zaufanie. Mam nadzieję, że również misja przyniosła dużo dobrego Polsce, kosmosowi, nauce polskiej i również polskiej technologii. Przynajmniej pewną część rozpoznania.
That is Shubhanshu Shukla there, viewers. The farewell address, there's the farewell ceremony of the NASA Axiom formation. He's coming back. Splashdown is slated for tomorrow. And we have a special guest, Dr. B.R. Guruprasad, former ISRO scientist and director of Jawaharlal Nehru Planetarium, is joining us right now. Dr. Guruprasad, सारे जहां से अच्छा भारत अभी भी है. That is what years ago, 41 years ago, Rakesh Sharma, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma had said. He echoed the same. When we have Group Captain echoing the same today, and he also says that today's India is a confident India. And he also talks about the journey, that India has set a very, very long journey as far as space is concerned, sir.
Yeah, good evening, namaskar. And, it is very heartening it was very heartening just a few moments ago to listen to Shubhanshu Shukla. Really, what he said, each and every sentence, it is really, it is emotional and it is true. India looks, even today, it looks very good. 41 years back, this is what Rakesh Sharma told the then Prime Minister, Srimati Indira Gandhi. And even today, Shubhanshu Shukla is telling the same thing. India is more confident, no doubt about it. And the third thing what he told was, yes, challenges are very tough for us as far as Gaganyaan is concerned. Okay, when Rakesh Sharma went to space, India was different. It was it was not in its infancy in space at that time, but still it was in childhood. Today, look at the confident India. We have more than 50 satellites, I understand, that which are working for our country. Okay, we have launched more than 400 satellites for other countries. And we have been utilizing satellites for our national development earlier. Now they are a part and parcel of our national infrastructure. Now, and we have sent the spacecraft to the moon, the Mars, and even one is studying the sun continuously. Look at the confident India, in fact, how much it has grown in space and what achievements it has to its credit. Now, Gaganyaan adds a new dimension to the Indian space program, no doubt about it. It is very tough, and ISRO has been very, very systematic in planning that, in fact. That is why no hurry, they are doing it. I am sure about it with my experience, my privilege to work for ISRO. And I feel that definitely, though, by taking cautious steps, we will also succeed in our Gaganyaan and the sequel to Gaganyaan, which is Bharatiya Antariksha Station. Then sending people to moon by around 2040, that is the ambition, and having a permanent presence there might be in 2047 or so. This is the route map which I saw. So it is the confident India in space. Yes, we can work together, and all of them are, you can see the way in which all of them are hugging each other. And, human spaceflight is such a, it is such a beautiful thing. Even, Americans, Russians, everybody is cooperating. And it's very heartening to see these things in the domain of space, especially in human spaceflight. Thank you.
Absolutely, Dr. Guru Prasad. There you have, viewers, the visuals, of course, very heartwarming visuals. We can play those visuals out again as they hug each other. This is the farewell right ahead of the undocking, viewers, as they are set to return to the Earth tomorrow afternoon, viewers. Late afternoon, Republic TV will be bringing you the moment of the splashdown as Group Captain Shukla, the pilot of Axiom 4, along with his other crew members, will be back on Earth. And before that, they have, of course, delivered this farewell address. We can take a listen in once again to what Group Captain Shukla had said in this farewell ceremony. All right, we have some breaking news coming in. We'll continue to get you this message, but we have some breaking news coming in right now, viewers. This is coming in. All right, Tejasvi Yadav, viewers. Tejasvi Yadav has made a derogatory remarks on the journalists. It's former Bihar Deputy Chief Minister, leader of opposition right now in Bihar, Tejasvi Yadav, abusing journalists, insulting journalists. During a press briefing in Patna, he has referred to Sutra as Mutra. That is, he is comparing the sources. He's talking about media sources and of course, comparing it to urine, as this is the latest statement by Bihar LOP Tejasvi Yadav. This is his disdain for journalists, for the fourth pillar of democracy. Lalu's son there, his contempt for media on full display. Listen in.
एक मिनट इसका चुनाव आयोग से कोई डॉक्यूमेंट या कोई प्रेस नोट या कोई ऐसी बात आई है या कि कहाँ से ये खबर आई? सोर्सेज बता रहे हैं, सूत्र बताते हैं, हम उस सूत्र को मूत्र समझते हैं। वेस्ट जो होता है ना, ये वो है, इसका कोई आधार नहीं ना। ये वही सूत्र है जो पाकिस्तान में कब्जा करवा दिया था, इस्लामाबाद, कराची। सूत्र नहीं, मूत्र लोग हैं। एक मिनट इसका चुनाव आयोग से कोई डॉक्यूमेंट या कोई प्रेस नोट या कोई ऐसी बात आई है या कि कहाँ से ये खबर आई? सोर्सेज बता रहे हैं, सूत्र बताते हैं, हम उस सूत्र को मूत्र समझते हैं। वेस्ट जो होता है ना, ये वो है, इसका कोई आधार नहीं ना। ये वही सूत्र है जो पाकिस्तान में कब्जा करवा दिया था, इस्लामाबाद, कराची। सूत्र नहीं, मूत्र लोग हैं।
Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor joins us live on the broadcast. Abhishek, we can clearly see the contempt for media that Lalu Prasad Yadav's son, the LOP, has. And, there is one thing, if you want to criticize the sources, you want to criticize news reporting, you want to question the sources. But this is plain, point-blank insult.
This is crass. This really shows the mind and the mindset of the Lalu Prasad Yadav family and Tejasvi Yadav specifically, Rakshita. Make no mistake, this is clearly an attack on press and its dignity. Remember, we constitute the fourth estate and the fourth pillar of democracy, and for this kind of contempt And this kind of mindset, Tejasvi Yadav has revealed really from where he comes, and the manner in which he was speaking, the body language, the expressions, that clearly showed that he has utter contempt for media. He has absolute disrespect for the institution of press. Remember, sources are supposed to remain anonymous, and that's why, and that's how journalism flourishes. That's how we practice our craft, because otherwise everything else becomes PR and publicity. In this case, while Election Commission officially has not come out with a statement yet, because remember, the matter is sub judice, the fact that sources have told their reporters on the ground there in Bihar, in Patna, that during all the scrutiny that's going on as part of the special drive that's on for checking the electoral roll, the veracity of the electoral roll, the eligibility of the voters on the voters list, many have been found to be having connections with Nepal, Bangladesh and Myanmar. It's not just about any community like the opposition tries to give a spin to. This is about having a clean electoral roll, a drive which is being carried out after a gap of 22, 23 years in the case of Bihar, a drive which has been sanctioned by the Supreme Court. Remember, in the hearing last week, the Supreme Court was very clear that this has to go on wherever amendments have to be made. They would make a suggestion. For example, they already have by way of addition of some documents, including the Aadhaar card, which was one of the opposition demands. But for Tejasvi Yadav, the leader of opposition of Bihar, effectively the head of the RJD, given that Lalu Prasad Yadav is not very active anymore, for him to be using this kind of vile language, indecent language, crass language against press, for journalism, for journalists, it really speaks volumes about what he thinks about this very important institution of democracy. I believe this is going to get a lot of traction going forward. There would be tremendous amount of reaction coming in, and politicians have to speak. If this is what they think, they have to reveal their mind. They have to come out and say whether they support Tejasvi Yadav or not. More specifically, the opposition leaders who stand with RJD, Rahul Gandhi, the Congress party, all the parties which are part of the Indie bloc, Mamata Banerjee, Stalin, all these people who come out for show of strength at various platforms to try to project power of the Indie bloc, would they support what Tejasvi Yadav has said, is something we have to look forward to, and that would be in a way a litmus test of whether the opposition, which claims immunity, which claims strength of democracy for their own strength and survival, would they apply the same yardstick to the press and media, which is an equal partner and equal contributor and an equal measure of as an institution in terms of making our democracy strong. I think Tejasvi Yadav has crossed a certain line, Rakshita, and hopefully we would see strong condemnation and reactions coming in from the political circles, as more specifically the opposition and the Indie bloc.
Highly objectionable statement indeed there from the Bihar leader of opposition. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us with that on that story, viewers. In fact, the Election Commission, now we'll tell you, viewers, why this report, the sources are rattling Tejasvi Yadav, viewers. Election Commission of India, special intensive revision that, remember, has been given a go-ahead by the Supreme Court of the electoral rolls revision are in full swing. They're going on in full swing in Bihar. And in a recent development, the ISI officials are claiming that foreign nationals from Nepal, from Bangladesh and from Myanmar have been discovered during the house-to-house visits for the revision exercise. These are illegal migrants. These are foreign nationals who have made it to the voter list. Here's the full story.
The Election Commission of India's special intensive revision of the electoral rolls are in full swing in the state of Bihar. The Election Commission's exercise in Bihar comes right ahead of the 2025 assembly elections. The Election Commission officials claimed that foreign nationals from Nepal, Bangladesh and Myanmar were discovered during their house-to-house visits for the revision exercise. The names of the illegal migrants will reportedly not be included in the final electoral roll to be published on September 30th. This after a proper inquiry into such people is conducted after August 1st. BJP national spokesperson Shehzad Poonawala said that the revision exercise will ensure that only the people of Bihar, not foreigners, get the right to vote.
जो अब ये SIR की एक्सरसाइज चल रही है उसमें पाया गया है कि जो पुरानी वोटर लिस्ट थी 2003 की, जिस समय पर महागठबंधन RJD की सरकारें राज्य सरकार में थी, उस समय की वोटर लिस्ट में बहुत सारे विदेशी नागरिक, बांग्लादेश के, म्यांमार के, रोहिंग्या इत्यादि पाए गए हैं। और आज जब उसकी क्लीनिंग हो रही है, संविधान ये कहता है कि केवल भारतीय नागरिकों को वोट करने का अधिकार है। ये सुनिश्चित किया जा रहा है कि बिहारी वोट करे, बाहरी नहीं। तो आज उन तमाम फर्जी घुसपैठी वोटर्स के पक्ष में फिर से एक बार कांग्रेस, RJD और ये तमाम पार्टियां आ चुकी है। मतलब कि वो नहीं चाहते कि बिहारियों को अधिकार मिले। वोट बैंक नीति के चलते वो संविधान नीति को दरकिनार करके घुसपैठियों को वोट दिलाना चाहते हैं। इसीलिए ये पूरी SIR एक्सरसाइज का लगातार वो विरोध कर रहे थे।
The Election Commission has stated that as of Saturday evening, 80.11% electors in Bihar had submitted their forms. However, the opposition raises doubts on the Election Commission's claims, with RJD leader Tejasvi Yadav saying it's completely different to the ground reality.
गांधी मैदान में भी जो है भारी मात्रा में जो है इसी हिसाब से फॉर्म जो है फेंके जा रहे हैं। हो क्या रहा है, ये तो इलेक्शन कमीशन को स्पष्ट करना चाहिए कि आप जो दावे कर रहे हैं 80% से अधिक जो है आप लोगों ने 11 जुलाई तक कर लिया है, तो वाकई में ये सच्चाई है या क्या है?
BJP leader Shahnawaz Hussain has reiterated that there is no controversy in the special intensive revision scheme. It is to ensure that only Biharis get to elect for their chief minister.
अभी जो वोट का रिवीजन है, जो वेरिफिकेशन हो रहा है, उसको लेकर कई लोग सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी गए। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रोक लगाने से मना किया और वो वेरिफिकेशन जारी है। कुछ सुझाव भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने दिया है जिसके लिए बाध्य चुनाव आयोग को नहीं किया है। अब जो वेरिफिकेशन हो रहा है उसमें कुछ रोहिंग्या मिल रहे हैं, कुछ बांग्लादेशी मिल रहे हैं, बर्मा नेपाल के लोग मिल रहे हैं। अरे बिहार में बिहारी वोट डालेगा ना बिहार के मुख्यमंत्री बनाने के लिए, सरकार बनाने के लिए, या बिहार में पूरे दुनिया के लोग आके वोट डालेंगे?
The Election Commission is moving ahead to complete the collection of enumeration forms before the stipulated time of July 25th.
Now, in Odisha's Balasore, a disturbing case has emerged from Fakir Mohan College. A student has set herself ablaze after a teacher allegedly asked her for sexual favors. The girl is currently in critical condition, undergoing treatment. The teacher, who has been accused of this alleged exploitation, has now been taken into custody. The incident has triggered massive outrage across the state, with student groups demanding swift action and a thorough investigation. Police say that they are verifying the students' allegations and have launched a full probe.
A student set herself ablaze in Odisha's Balasore, alleging a teacher asked for sexual favor. The teacher, who has been accused of this alleged exploitation, has now been taken into custody. The incident has triggered massive outrage across the state, with student groups demanding swift action and a thorough investigation. The police say that they are verifying the students' allegations and have launched a full probe.
लेडी छात्रा जो सेल्फ इमोलेशन का अटेम्प्ट की हैं, इसके ऊपर जो प्राइमा फेसी एविडेंस एस्टेब्लिश हुआ है एक टीचर के अगेंस्ट, उनको अरेस्ट किया गया है, उनको कोर्ट फॉरवर्ड किया गया है। और उसके साथ साथ हम इन जो पिछले 30 जून को एक कंप्लेंट लॉन्च किया गया था इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी को, स्टूडेंट्स और जो लेडी जिन्होंने अटेम्प्ट किया उनके द्वारा। इनका कॉलेज का इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी का क्या फाइंडिंग्स रहा है, क्या सबमिशन रहा है प्रिंसिपल को और भी जो एप्रोप्रिएट अथॉरिटी को, उसके ऊपर हम लोग प्रॉपर्ली इंक्वायरी कर रहे हैं।
The girl is currently in critical condition, undergoing the treatment. The incident has triggered massive outrage across the state of Odisha, with student groups demanding strict action.
इंसिडेंट
बहुत दिनों से चल रहा है, लेकिन हमें लेट में मालूम हुआ। जब ये इंसिडेंट को लेकर के पुलिस के साथ प्रिंसिपल बैठे तब उनको ये आश्वासन दिया कि हम एक इंक्वायरी कमेटी हमारा है, इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी, और इस कमेटी 5 दिन में इंक्वायरी कंप्लीट करके रिपोर्ट देगा। ये बहुत त्रुटिपूर्ण है और उद्देश्य प्रणोदित है। मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ। कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई होगा।
Bharat 1 Minute brought to you by Canara Bank. Together we can.
Delhi PWD Minister Parvesh Verma visits Palla to review the ongoing monsoon preparedness measures and inspection of Yamuna River. He says that a meeting was held on the measures being taken to deal with the floods. He says that the samples of Yamuna water were taken from Haryana. He has reviewed the work and he's satisfied, he says, with the pace of the work. On the inclusion of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's 12 forts in UNESCO's World Heritage List, Union Minister Piyush Goyal expressed that this is a matter of great pride for Indians and that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj worked to bring peace to the country. He fought for India's unity and integrity, promoted development and respect for every individual to the farthest reaches. A bus carrying pilgrims was returning from Amarnath Yatra when it met with an accident in Jammu Kashmir's Kulgam. Injured have been admitted to the hospital. One of the injured individuals said that he came from Mandsaur of MP for the Yatra and found the arrangements there to be good. Now, UP ATS has uncovered shocking details in the Uttar Pradesh conversion case. Changur Baba, the mastermind and the engineer of a sinister radicalization network, has cracked under pressure and exposed the hidden hands operating from the foreign nations. Here's the story.
This was once a sprawling campus of a sinister design. And after the cover of Conversion Baba's unholy plot was blown, the campus was razed to the ground by bulldozers. With each passing day, more details of this sinister design is unraveling. Now, a massive conspiracy stretching from Balrampur to the borders of Nepal has come crashing down. In explosive revelations made during interrogation, the Uttar Pradesh ATS exposed a dangerous nexus orchestrated by none other than Changur Baba. Changur Baba, who boasted of having over 20,000 disciples, is now at the center of the conspiracy of forced conversions, foreign funding, and sleeper cell facilitation. The UP ATS has found that Changur made videos of people reciting the Kalma, feeding them banned meat, and luring them into Islam with huge sums of money. What's even more chilling is that Changur Baba had created a team of young women trained to file fake rape charges against anyone resisting conversion. Sources say he openly misused the administrative machinery to silence dissenters and even tried to enter the Pakistani embassy in Kathmandu, aiming to marry off converted Hindu girls to ISI-linked operatives.
कैसे लड़कियों का एक गिरोह बनाया करता था अपने विरोधियों को शांत करने के लिए, हर वह मुकदमे वो करवा देता था, बलात्कार, शोषण और हत्या, डकैती सब कुछ वो कराता था। उसके पास अपनी एक टीम थी जो प्रशासन को हैंडल करती थी।
His aim was to turn border districts like Siddharthnagar and Barni into active breeding grounds for radical elements. From bringing in Rohingya refugees to protecting himself as a saint to funnel in funds from Saudi-backed bodies, Changur's plan was a ticking time bomb.
यूपी में और देश के अलग अलग राज्यों में धर्म परिवर्तन की घटनाएं लगातार बढ़ती चली जा रही हैं और सिर्फ एक ही मानसिकता है कि यहाँ पे डेमोग्राफी चेंज किया जाए। डेमोग्राफी इज डेस्टिनी और इसीलिए यहाँ पे डेमोग्राफी चेंज की जा रही है।
With links to Saudi Islamic banks, Dawat-e-Islam and Islamic Union of Nepal, Changur's network was deep and dangerous. And the location was strategic. Utraula, just 65 kilometers from Nepal border, with easy access to Ayodhya, Bengal and other sensitive regions. From a quiet village in Balrampur to the radar of international espionage, Changur Baba's rise was no accident. This is no longer just about religious conversion. This is about national security, sleeper cells, and the silent war waged within.
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. Raho befikar.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला.
A storm is brewing at the heart of American law enforcement. FBI Director Kash Patel is reportedly on the verge of resigning, threatening to walk away from his post if his deputy, Dan Bongino, follows through on his own plans to quit. The reason? A fiery clash with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case, a controversy that's ignited outrage among MAGA supporters and raised questions about transparency in the Trump administration. The Epstein saga has long haunted political and social circles, with its web of allegations involving powerful figures. President Donald Trump, seen here socializing with Epstein in 1992 at Mar-a-Lago, has faced scrutiny over their past friendship. Trump has since distanced himself, claiming in a recent cabinet meeting that he hadn't been close to Epstein for nearly 2 decades before his death.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
A very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching the latest edition of Forces First, and I am Rakshita Mishra with you, viewers. We have a power-packed lineup of all the stories. Of course, we will tell you NSA Doval's hard talk this week that made the headlines. And not just that, we'll also tell you about India's arsenal's newest Astra. Not just that, the threat, the Chinese threat in Indian waters. There's this report about the hidden Chinese ship, our Chinese spy ship. We'll tell you more about it and all that. But first, viewers, we will start with the top story on Forces First. So viewers, this week India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, viewers, he has been at the forefront as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, he talks straight. He talks tough, and in the latest, he has thrown a dare. He has dared the foreign media to show proof, if at all there is, about the damage on Indian side, the reported damage on Indian side during Operation Sindoor. It's the first time that he has spoken out, and how, since the Operation Sindoor, he has delivered a hard reality check to the sanctimonious sanctum of foreign media spinning Pakistan's narrative on Operation Sindoor. In his address at IIT Madras this week, he did not just defend India's military precision. He left no glass pane unbroken in the house of biased reporting. This is the story of how India, with a 23-minute masterstroke, not only hit terror targets in Pakistan, but also gave a befitting reply to those peddling half-baked truths, or rather unchecked reports parroting Pakistan's lies. Listen into Doval.
A lot of things are said that this thing, foreign press and all these things, they said Pakistan did that and this. You tell me one photograph, one imagery. In, these days, these imageries are from the satellites all over the world. They are this thing. Which shows any Indian damage being done, even a glass pane having been torn. I don't know, only our forces will be knowing what's happening in this thing, but I am just telling, they brought out photographs, they wrote this thing, the New York Times put out this thing. Only imagery, they said 13 air bases of Pakistan now and now, before 10th May and after 10th May. Whether it was in Sargoda, or it was in Rahim Yar Khan, or it was in Chaklala, or it was in Rawalpindi, any of the places that there are 13 important air bases, including the Bellary, where they have got the AVAX, the avoidance control systems. Now, I'm not telling any of this thing. I'm only telling what the foreign media, on the basis of the imageries, have put the images and others. So we're very able to achieve it. We are capable of doing that. We have to develop our indigenous technology. Mention was made here of Sindoor. We are really proud of it, not for necessarily what people perceive, that how much of an indigenous content was there. We are proud of it, that some of the best systems that worked, whether it was our BrahMos systems, whether it was our integrated air control and command systems, whether it was our radars, whether it was the whole this of it that was being done at the battlefield surveillance about the position out there. We decided to have 9 terrorist targets in the crisscross of Pakistan. It was not on the border area or something, which we thought were there this way. We missed none. We hit nowhere else except that. And it is also not that this was a very, it was precise to the point where we knew who is where. Entire operation was started at 5 minutes past 1 and was over at 28 minutes past 1. 23 minutes.
So there you have it, the Grandmaster of India's security chessboard, viewers. Remember, viewers, this is a pattern that everybody in India has observed. The foreign media decides to play Pakistan's tune, claiming Indian assets were damaged in retaliatory strikes. But the NSA